The Independent MP Rob Oakeshott has confirmed he's putting his hand up for the role of Speaker of the House of Representatives. The job would come with a hefty pay rise, but he'd need to be nominated by a fellow MP and have support on the floor of the House. Well, the likelihood of that is unclear, with the government and the opposition seeking advice on how it would affect the workings of Parliament. Francis Bell reports from Canberra.
He helped Labor form minority government, then knocked back the offer of a ministry. Now Rob Oakeshott has his sights set on the Speaker's chair.
If I can make a contribution through that chair and get closer to the action on behalf of the electorate, I'm happy to give it a go.
The Independent MP says he'd retain his voting rights on the floor of the Parliament under the parliamentary reform package he struck last week.
It's pairing rights on the floor of the Parliament, so you can remove someone else. So the equivalent of a vote is in play as part of the agreed reform document.
The response from both the government and the opposition has been cautious. Labor says it's seeking legal advice on how it would affect Rob Oakeshott's ability to have a say on legislation before the Parliament, while the coalition says it'll be consulting with the independents and the government before Parliament reconvenes at the end of the month.
As I understood it, any MP could nominate to be Speaker or be nominated to be the Speaker, but I guess it has implications, of course, on the numbers, given the numbers are so close in the House.
I think it goes to show that we're in for a very interesting time of it in this next Parliament, and I personally don't think that's a bad thing.
Constitutional lawyer George Williams says there aren't any legal impediments to the move.
The Constitution says very little about Speaker. It's clear that that person must be chosen by Parliament and only has a casting vote, but there's nothing to prevent that person otherwise taking part in parliamentary business. It's also fair to say that there are some precedents for this at the lower level of government. In fact, the current Speaker in the ACT Legislative Assembly is a member of the Greens who also holds a shadow ministerial portfolio.
But he says the idea of having a non-aligned Speaker who also engages in parliamentary business raises concerns about the workability of the House.
When it gets to pairing, things do get complicated, and the detail of the parliamentary agreement is very light on in this area. It does recognise that the Speaker might be non-aligned. It could be someone like Rob Oakeshott. It does also recognise that that person would be entitled to a pair, but it doesn't say who that person would be, and it's far from obvious who that person would be. Most likely you'd have to find out how Rob Oakeshott would want to vote on any particular issue and find a different pair on each occasion to ensure that he is matched appropriately. Otherwise you could have a situation where the pair he had previously is simply the wrong person, because you may find that person's actually agreeing with him rather than disagreeing.
As both sides of politics consider the latest twist in this unfamiliar territory of minority government, the man who was Prime Minister is leaving it all behind him. Kevin Rudd is on his way to flood-ravaged Pakistan in his new role as Foreign Minister, before heading to a series of meetings in the United States. He says his relationship with Julia Gillard is productive and professional, but he's refusing to discuss his downfall.
I don't intend to engage in any retrospectives whatsoever on recent political events, including the conduct of the last federal election.
Mr Rudd says he'll work with the Prime Minister to implement a regional asylum seeker processing centre in East Timor, and defended his ongoing push to secure Australia a seat on the United Nations Security Council.
Australia should have bid for this when Mr Downer was Foreign Minister. He wimped out because he feared he would lose.
Mr Rudd says if an international job offer was to come his way, he wouldn't accept it, and committed himself to serving a full term. Francis Bell, Late Live.